Hi everyone, I'm Logan Baldwin. I'm the executive director of Klamath Film. With me, with me here, I have Nelson Tracey, writer, director, and producer of Breakup Season. Nelson, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background in filmmaking?
Yeah, sure. Breakup Season is my first feature film. I have been writing and directing short films and working as an editor in here in Los Angeles, where I reside for the better part of my adult life. And I landed a short film at a film festival in Eastern Oregon called the Eastern Oregon Film Festival in La Grande. And to make a very long story short, that got the balls rolling on making a movie in Oregon. And the result of many years of work is what you just saw, Breakup Season.
I read that you said the location inspired the project. How did you develop the story of Breakup Season to be tailor-made for LeGrand? Were there any specific elements of the town or its community that you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, definitely. So the original idea of a Christmas breakup movie, I'd been rattling around for the better part of 10 years. And I'm from Colorado. So, original idea was that it would be like they got snowed in the mountains of Colorado. Upon arriving to La Grande, I was really taken with the town itself, and it kind of felt like a model train village to me and just a more picturesque and unique location to shoot a movie. The festival director there, Chris, and I really put our heads together, and I ended up participating in their first year of their filmmaker residency program, which meant I spent a month living in La Grande, writing screenplays set in that region. And I was actually kind of focused on a different screenplay, but then I would mention this Christmas breakup idea, and people would say, "Oh yeah, every year someone gets snowed in. The valley. It's in a valley surrounded by mountains in every single direction. So very common for the interstate to shut down this time of year." And so I was like, okay, the germ of the idea started to grow and evolve and further be informed by La Grande as a place. And I think more than anywhere else, or if I'd shot it in Colorado, or, as my producers jokingly suggested, in Santa Clarita with a snow machine, like it was never going to be the same as that grit and texture that we found in La Grande. And so, I was really taken with the place. And the state of Oregon, as many of the filmmakers here probably know, is really supportive of independent films and way more than most states. So I saw a path both creatively with the La Grande stuff, but also from a producing perspective of how to make an independent film in this area.
I see. Very cool. Very cool. We don't often get films submitted from that area. What were some of the challenges or maybe some of the rewards of filming in La Grande?
Yeah, I can imagine. I know there's this category as northern feature and southern feature, but there's not an eastern feature.
That's totally
Yeah,
right. That's totally
yeah.
right.
Yeah, no, it was unique in that sense. And just for some fun film history, there are only two other movies ever made in La Grande. Paint Your Wagon in 1969, starring Clint Eastwood and Lee Marvin, and then an indie movie called Sammyville in 1999, which is only available on VHS tape. I did track one down, but it's very difficult to find. So Breakup Season is the first movie made there in 25 years. And obviously not including like short films and things like that, but feature length film. So it definitely was a challenge. And I think we looked at it as such, that it was going to be bringing almost all of our crew in from Portland, Oregon, where obviously there's a very strong base of filmmakers. But, we kind of counterbalanced the additional expenses with the in-kind support that you get in a town like this. We got really great discounts on lodging, and, we got all kinds of kind of intrinsic support that if you're shooting in a big city, especially a place like LA where I live, no one wants to support an independent film. They're just over it, whereas in a town like La Grande, people were excited and they lined up for it, and we had, in the club scene at the beginning, there were over 30 background actors. That was all shot in La Grande. Most of those people had never been on a movie set in their lives. In town, you'll see not a ton, but a few background folks. Those are all locals. And so I think it allowed us to really be good news and something exciting as opposed to just another run-of-the-mill film production the way we might have been definitely in Los Angeles, but even in a place like Portland. So yeah, there isn't a ton of infrastructure there yet. Like we brought that infrastructure with us for sure. But I think that location shoot made it all the more satisfying and more fun for the crew. I mean, we on weekends, the first Saturday, my producer made arrangements for us to go to a bowling alley and said, "Hey, it's your weekend, so do whatever you want. But if you want to come bowling, we have a reservation. Every single member of the cast and crew showed up. And that really set the tone of what this movie is going to be. Like, we're going to work our butts off during the week. We certainly did. But then we're going to have a lot of fun on the weekends and really enjoy each other's company. And, it added a lot to the film and the experience that all of us as filmmakers got to have out there.
Totally. Work hard and play hard. I've had a very similar experience being new to Oregon, being new to the Oregon independent film industry. And they say that we've had last year we had a feature shoot in Klamath Falls, independent feature. And everybody says that sort of the same thing, that in LA people are so over it, but here, because we don't get a whole lot of stuff going on, people are so excited to be a part, to be an extra, or to be on a movie set, or to be near it, or to volunteer their location for little to no money, and that's something that has also driven a lot of filmmakers to shoot here. Backseat Driver was the name of the
Oh, yeah.
feature that shot here, and it was that director I have talked to once before. He has been here to the Klamath Independent Film Festival several times in the past, and he really liked the area and he wanted to shoot something here. And so it's, that's kind of how this goes here. So hopefully you like
Definitely.
the area too.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, that's like step one is just getting people to new locations. And that's, I'm kind of using our film festival tour as a way to explore and get to know new places because it's really amazing. I love telling stories, but the way I write is usually based on location because immediately, as soon as you know where you're going to shoot things and what you have access to,
Absolutely.
start turning. And many of the locations were born in the film. Obviously, the house, we knew we needed to find a house, and we did rent that house because obviously that was such a hero location. But everywhere else in town was sort of like, well, we have access to an airport. Let's use the airport. We have access to a cafe. Let's use the cafe. That kind of mentality drove me
That's
in.
right.
Writer and producer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I was speaking with another director who submitted this year, and he shot a short in town, and he needed a coffee shop location, and he went out and he talked to them and was like, "Hey, we want to shoot here. That's okay. After hours, whatever." And he said
Yeah.
they got there, and the owner gave him the keys and left, and that was it. And it was like,
Yeah.
oh wow, people are really cool with this here, and that's awesome. That's really really awesome. You said that Breakup Season is your debut feature. How did your previous work on narrative and documentary shorts influence your approach to directing this feature-length film?
I think this movie sort of represents my entire life of studying film and culminating in wanting to finally put my own, get my own skin in the game and make it happen myself. Because I think I was really, I would watch my friends' independent films and I'd be hungry. I'd be like, I can do this, and like, so this represents a culmination of all that. So obviously there's a lot of specific creative stuff, but I also think just, it was a big leap and there's no doubt about that. But I think I love short films and short films are a great, I, I always say it's a great, like low stakes exercise. And I mean that with no disrespect, but it's just like, you're not going to need to, if you're doing a feature, it's a huge investment of resources and finances and time. A short film, it's a little more like, let's take a spin and see how that goes. So I think all of it really educated me in some way or another, but also just a love of movies and film education and, studying all that stuff too, and watching a lot of great films. So I'm not sure anything specific. My actors were very happy that I had an editing background because it meant that we only had 15 days to shoot the film, which is no time at all. And so I had to be really precise with what I was going to film because I didn't have time to get every single angle under the sun. I had to be really, everything you see, I knew I needed to get. And so I think the editing background, and again, my career has mostly been in that, informed a lot of my directing choices and in terms of how to do it well. And, I'm always, editing was always a vessel to serve the directing goal, but I think that's one of the ways that I'm glad I didn't do a film at 23 years old, right out of school. I'm glad I waited and absorbed a lot of experience, working on bigger projects, directing short films, writing screenplays, all to get to where this film exists, and working with great people. I mean, my DP is named Eric Macy. He's based out of Portland, and he's a career AC and just starting to do feature films. He worked on Pig with Nicolas Cage and Sing Sing with Coleman Domingo. And so he's a guy who has worked on some really big stuff. And then my second unit DP, TG Firestone, has been a longtime collaborator of Kelly Reichardt. And Kelly Reichardt is one of the most important voices in Oregon film. And so I was equally surrounding myself with excellent people as well as excellent actors, which I'm happy to talk about too. But like that also helped make the film more than just my own thing, but belongs to a lot of different individuals.
Totally, totally. That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. What do you think you would say, flipping it around here, what do you think you would say the biggest lesson you learned from this production was? You know, we know what sort of led you here, but what are you going to take from it and move forward with?
I think, I was at a party, I don't know, before we finished the film, we were still editing, and a peer of mine said, well, if you could do it again, what would you do differently? And I sat and I thought, and I was like, wouldn't change a thing. And the reason I say this is because I did make mistakes and I did hit some roadblocks along the way, but I needed to make those mistakes so that I wouldn't make them again. I mean, one example that's just a small one, but like we had originally an opening scene that was 5 minutes long, a long extended credits, and I'd already paid for the licensed song we were going to use. I was so confident that we had it, and I had an agreement, and it was relatively affordable, but still pricey, and so but I was like, it's the opening song. It's been in the way since I conceived it, and it was a killer song. It still is a good song. It's a banger. But as we were making the film, it was way too long, and it's like a 5 minute opening sequence, that people are like checking their watches already. And on an indie movie, like if this pops on a streaming service, you've got about 30 seconds to engage people, And so I should have just not do all the licensing conversations, but I should have waited to pull the trigger on actually paying for the music, because ultimately we cut it down to 1 minute, and it's a great opening, but it's way more contained than if it was 5 minutes. It was really heavy and the song didn't fit once we had it at 1 minute. We needed something that got you in and got you out, and less is more. I think that's always, every screenplay writer will tell you, get in and get out as quickly as you can. So there's so many lessons like that I did learn, but I needed to learn those along the way. So I wouldn't go back and fix it, because that's hard-earned lessons that I can apply to my next project, and I think, and I can't translate that to someone else. I can just absorb that myself. So to any filmmakers out there, it's like, you have to learn your own lessons, and you'll make your own mistakes that I didn't make or that I haven't made yet, that I'll make on my next one. But that's, for me, part of the joy of it is making peace with those things, stuff like that. So.
Totally, totally. I think it was probably a good decision. I mean, I'm sure whatever you would have done would have been pretty cool, because the movie is pretty cool and I like it. But I feel like I really like this intro or this opening scene, and it you're right. A long opening sequence can really put people off, especially in this day and age. So I feel like you go back and you watch these 5 minutes, and usually they're just credits with it's just not for me. So I'm glad you did what you did, and I think it was a good decision. After the success of Breakup season, what are your future projects or aspirations in the film industry?
Well, I appreciate you saying the success of Breakup season, because we're still on our festival run. So, I'm still working on that.
But it's been pretty well received so far, right?
Yeah. No, we're moving along. We, at the time of recording, you just won another award recently. And so it's moving along the way it needs to. And it's a holiday film. So the goal is to get it out. And we have one plan in place. So we can definitely mark my words. We will be out by December of this year and available to watch at home. With that in mind, at the time of this film festival, I'm still very much in the Breakup season world. And I think that's worth saying, just because I think people think, oh, I just roll into the next one. But these are, a feature film is at least a 3-year endeavor, and unless you really have all the money in the world, which I do not. It's a multi-year process, and therefore look, I'm going to be making movies till I'm gray and old and can no longer do anything else. But they each take their own time. And so before I leap into the next one, I'm going to really, be calculated about it. And so I'm looking forward to 2025 as a year to get my other screenplays because I had about 5 or 6 features that were kind of in consideration for movie number one. And now I can move up to those other scripts, see if any of them really speak to me. Because this was the one when I would talk about movies I wanted to make, it was like the Christmas Breakup movie was the one that people really kept asking me about. And so I kind of knew I had something special there. I have another kind of more romantic comedy that I'm pretty excited about. And then I have a horror film that I'm pretty excited about. So we'll just kind of see where the writing takes me and also then the producing side, what seems to get the most steam. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. A
Cool.
quiet
That
year
sounds
of development. Yeah. So
that sounds great. I was just about to ask you if you were interested in exploring other genres too, so that works out perfect. I love it when someone can take, a drama and then shift it, or a comedy and then shift it over to horror, or vice versa. You think of the Jordan Peele types,
yes. Yeah.
who are so good at one thing and then they can transition to another so fluidly. I was, curious about that.
Yeah, as someone who loves movies, I'm not like a genre. I'm not like, oh, I do rom-coms or I do horror movies or I do period pieces or whatever. I love movies of all types. And my background's mostly in documentaries. So, I built a nice documentary career also, which is just completely unrelated, but then every now and then documentary things sneak their way into doing a narrative. So, it's all the same medium and I enjoy being versatile and all that as opposed to saying I have one lane that I stay in.
Totally, totally. Well, Nelson, do you have any final words before we sign off here?
No, I don't, but I'm thankful to everyone in Klamath Falls for taking the film and getting the chance to share it. And for all of you who saw it in the movie theater, I'm so grateful because to me, that's what it's for. And I want people to see it that way, not there. Most people will watch it at home, but the very lucky few will have to get them to see it in a cinema. So thank you all for showing up for local film festivals. It means the world.
That's right. It sure does. I love the theater experience. I'm so glad that we're getting to show this here. Thank you once again, Nelson, for submitting to
Thank you.
the Klamath Independent Film Festival.